Is good. Well, let's go ahead and kick this off. This will be recorded, so we can go ahead and share it out to folks. I'm just going to turn the music off and then we'll get started. Cool. Well, thank you everyone for joining today. We're really excited to kick this off. This is our first official partner Q&A spotlight. We're joined by our partners ERC Guaranteed. Grady, go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about ERC, and we'll jump right into it.
Yeah, well, thank you for hosting. I'm excited to share a little bit about, like I said, as a non-tax professional, what my experience has taught me around the changes to the tax code, particularly to small businesses in general. But, I have a long background working in what I call like the dirty jobs industries, working in the construction, industrial, distribution, manufacturing, that whole segment, building and developing out partner programs. So getting out in the field, spending a lot of time, on job site, meeting with the partners and professionals that drive a lot of industries forward. And what's exciting to me working with ERC Guaranteed is really like providing a universal opportunity for all these business types. And if I even like broaden out a little bit further, we're kind of at the beginning of the change of a guard for small to mid-sized business owners. Put us on not necessarily like a level playing field with what corporate and enterprise level tax credits and such are, but we're definitely at the forefront. And ERC Guaranteed is really kind of a specialized company. We provide virtual accounting support, which means that we work with existing business owners, bookkeepers, CPAs, accountants, to really help small to mid-sized businesses process the new opportunities in the tax code, so that they can take full advantage and really take the opportunities and turn that into either increased investment within their business, support for their employees, or in this case with employee retention credit, really helping to cover a little bit of the costs that business owners provided, helping to keep families afloat during the time of COVID by providing that employment, keeping business open when maybe revenue or opportunity wasn't as forthcoming as it was prior. So
yeah, I love that. And I think that's one reason why we really wanted to partner with you guys as well, because in the space that we work at, as you know, we're helping small to mid-size contractors and those businesses really come online and start to develop a business and an online presence. But on the back end, it's like, how do we manage the influx of business throughout the years? What are things that we can do to really set ourselves up for success? And that's where I think you guys are a great partner to be able to help us with that. We like to tackle the front end and get them going, bring in that revenue and that sort of thing. But how do you maintain that, or how do you keep it, and how do you do things appropriately? And I think you guys are a fantastic partner for that. So I'm really excited to kind of dig into these questions and give you the spotlight and be able to share some of the things. I guess let's just kick it right off and understand. So I've heard ERC before, employee tax or employee retention credit, right? What is different about ERC Guaranteed compared to like the ERC program?
yeah, so ERC Guaranteed is a provider. We're a division of Sunrise Business Solutions. We're based out of Chicago and have been in business since 2017. We've really started off as a tax and legal advisory firm, working with enterprise, franchise, and large size businesses, and helping them process not just tax credits, but also special opportunities within the tax code. You can think about us as by advising, I mean, like really what our job is to analyze the code, look for changes in it, and then work with the business owners to apply it specifically to their situation. The ERC, or the employee retention credit, is actually what we think the first step is towards a massive change in the accounting industry, one we haven't seen for probably about 30 years or so. And it's essentially because through the CARES Act, which employee retention credit is based out of, we're seeing a large-scale tax credit apply to small to mid-sized business owners in a way that's never been done before. And so it takes our experience of you working with large to mid or large to enterprise type tax credits and applying those processes now on a large scale, but still managing to keep them unique to the business owner. And I think that's one of the things that's really specialized about ERC Guaranteed, is we're really focused on getting the information about this credit, building a process around it, and then helping the business owner to not only qualify, but quantify the impact of COVID on their business, and
Mhm.
then figure out how to qualify that towards the employee retention credit as a whole. And so, like you said, Darren, at CenTech, one of the great things you do is work with these business owners on the front end to help them drive business, create opportunity for them. We're a real specialized partner, not an accountant, but like a resource that allows them to look at opportunities within the tax code to help their structure,
Mhm.
specifically around employee retention credit, how to process this pretty large opportunity for investment in their business,
Yeah.
uh, and apply it directly to them uniquely.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like you guys are doing something that would otherwise be pretty complicated for an individual without a lot of experience to go into do.
Yeah, and that's what the ultimately the challenge here, the opportunity that we see in the changing tax code is the overall tax code, I think, is around 30,000 pages as a whole this year. The ERC credit itself is over 300 pages. So for not only the average business owner, but even the CPA to understand how to qualify the business owner is
Yeah.
challenging. What's really challenging about it as well is that when it comes to the employee retention credit, it's a pretty basic credit. In general, it provides a credit for employers that maintain W-2 employment during the
Mhm.
time of COVID, specifically 2020 and 2021.
Yeah.
That's pretty simple to understand. If you had a W-2 employee, then you could potentially qualify. Quantifying now is the really challenging part, because quantifying takes the situation of COVID and applies it uniquely to the business situation. Essentially, what I mean there is if you're a construction company,
Mhm.
multiple job sites, multiple jurisdictions, you could have been affected by multiple different stay-at-home orders, PPE orders, like changes to your hours. Basically, the local government set how business was being done during COVID. And so at ERC Guaranteed, one of the first things we did when we saw the ERC credit was we went out and created a database of all of the qualifying orders from local and regional governments, so that when we work with a business, we have on file the specific orders that would have affected the areas of operation during the time of COVID,
Mhm.
which in most cases you can no longer find online.
Sure.
So being able to do that uniquely for the business owner and being able to look at the different opportunities that fit based off of what the government was allowing to do
Yeah.
is very unique and challenging. The average accountant doesn't have that capability.
Gotcha. So do you guys typically partner with accountants at a business, or who is your primary point of contact if someone were to apply for something like this?
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, we could do it with an accounting resource like a bookkeeper, a CPA, or an accounting firm, um, or we could do it with the business owner itself.
Okay.
What's nice about the ERC credit is, and what the process we've built around it is, we know that it's challenging to get to do the documentation and to qualify for it. So we do that on our behalf for the client. And how we do that is we built an online portal that basically a business owner or an accountant just has to upload their tax information from those 2 years, 2020 and 2021. We're able to pull W-2s from most payroll providers instantaneously. So we don't need anything from HR or payroll. We just need the tax documentation. And then we have a couple of small questions, a short questionnaire that we ask the business owner itself about how COVID affected their business. And
Gotcha.
really, this is about not just like, did you have a loss of revenue? Did ultimately you stop doing business? COVID affected us in a variety of ways. It's really a spectrum. And so it's less about like, I couldn't do this, continue this job because of COVID, and a
Mhm.
lot more of, well, we were working on the job site, but we're only allowed to work in these hours. We had to stop and do cleaning on this sort of time, where we could only have crews of this size. So if your business changed, we ask a couple of questions to get you to quantify like what that was. And then using that information, our database of those COVID regulations, and then your tax information, we provide a calculation that shows how essentially we believe COVID affected your business during that time and how that qualifies against the credit.
I love that. So honestly, a small business that doesn't have an internal accountant or someone like that, they would be a great fit to be able to work with you guys because you could help them in that aspect, right? If they've been filing
Exactly.
their own taxes.
Yes, yes. And as I said before, we know that doing taxes is really not the forte or the interest of the business owner or even the managers.
Yeah.
Uh, so we try to make the process
I know it's not for me.
it's not for myself as well.
Yeah.
That's why you have specialized partners. In
Yeah.
your case, people come to you to help drive businesses and to help brand and present who they are. For us, it's a matter of trying to make it as simple as possible to like for the business owner themselves to be able to see how like the ERC credit applies to their unique situation. So they don't need to be a tax expert, and we can work with accountants. We do recommend if you have an accountant or somebody that has on their team, we're happy to like have them also assist us with it. But essentially, we're a provider to support them so that we can help your business like work as seamlessly as possible in terms of getting this credit.
I love it. Hey, Chad, if anyone has questions, you can always just message Matt too. He'd be happy to answer those. But Grady, I want to kind of change gears a little bit and just ask, like, in general, why would someone be wanting to apply for this? In my understanding, is it something that's required that people have to apply, or is it something that they would opt in for their business?
No, that's a great question. So I think to answer it direct, like the easiest way to directly answer it is to come back to what ERC or employee retention credit is.
Okay.
The employee retention credit itself is an increased credit for the tax years of 2020 and 2021.
Okay.
So basically think about it like it's amending your tax situation for those 2 years. You've already applied, you've already shown how many W-2 employees you have with the government. What ERC did though is Congress allowed that through ERC, they increased the amount of deduction per employee to either 70% of their total wages for the year or $28,000, whichever is higher. So essentially, what it is an increased deduction for that time period. So no one's required to, but if you had W-2 employees, there's a good chance that you qualify to get an increased amount of credit back. Think of this like if you have your home taxes, personal taxes, and you have child care or dependent, basically they increase the dependent amount. And so that means there's money sitting in the US Treasury that essentially with the ERC credit, you're just claiming this increased amount. Plus, because it's been a while since 2020 and 2021, you'll also receive your credit and interest on top of it. And so no one is required to do it, but it is essentially tax-free credit that's available for you at the Treasury.
So I want to make sure I'm understanding this. Basically, if there's a business between the years of 20 and 21 that paid taxes, whatever their tax situation was weighed for those years can be, what would be the right word for this? If we're looking at, hey, this is how much you earned, it's a redistribution, or what does this look like?
So think about when you do your traditional taxes, every single year, there's a variety of like credits that are available to you. Well, at the time that COVID was, and when they initially processed their taxes in 2020 and 2021, the ERC or the employee retention credit hadn't been created yet. But essentially, we're amending your taxes for that year to retroactively apply this credit now to your existing tax situation, because you've already received as a business owner either a return or you've already paid in. This credit is essentially coming in and reducing the amount of taxes that you have that year. So you'd have cash coming from the Treasury in response to that.
So if I'm the business, I already paid that money and they're holding on to it. If I apply for this and I'm qualified, then they just give that money back. Is that what?
Yeah,
oh,
it's
super simple.
Entirely government. It's money that the government owes you, essentially.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. And so who can apply for this? Is it any kind of business, or are there certain parameters of people who don't qualify? What does that look like?